What a headshot! What a head!
How's it guys, this is Dayvy, FPL, and welcome back to the Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now in this video, I'll be going through the ultimate guide to the upcoming Double Game Week 20. So I don't even have to clickbait this video, there's just simply so much FPL content to talk about. What's happened in the last kind of 24 hours, the last few hours is mental, and I'm going to try and wrap through that as quickly as possible in this ultimate guide. Now topics coming up for you in today's video are going to be the DARWIN Nunes injury rumours, the Erling Haaland triple captaincy, should you take out João Cancelo and who for, then I'll be bringing you the Double Game Week 21 and 22 rumours as well as the stats review. Now before we get into this ultimate guide, I want to remind you guys about the deadline stream happening tomorrow, yes, the Friday night deadline for Game Week 20, and I think it's integral that you guys are there to get the most up-to-date news as possible. The reason I'm saying that is that with this kind of Darwin Nunes rumour, we want to get as much information from the press conference tomorrow from Klopp, and he might actually tell us that Darwin Nunes is completely fine. So make sure that you guys are there, or at least you're on kind of FPL Twitter or browsing the kind of news articles, because that might be super useful for those transfers. But now let's hop back into this ultimate guide, so sit back, relax, and let's get straight into it. Now the first kind of topic to go over is going to be the stats review. You guys know I love going over kind of XG conceded, XG non-penalty to kind of look at what teams are performing pretty well. Now I've actually decided to kind of switch things up because I didn't have a lot of time to make this video. I went over to Fantasy Football Fix, kind of took screenshots from their website, so you guys can go over to their Opta Stats sandbox and vary the stats as you do please. Now I've decided to split this into kind of the first half and the second half of each stat. The first half obviously going to be the best kind of teams, the top 6 sides in terms of these stats. The next talking point will be about the worst. Now then I've kind of split it up into kind of 2 sections yet again. The first section is going to be the entire kind of FPL season so far. This will be kind of 16 or 17, kind of 18, 19 games, depending on when these teams are blanked. Then the next section is going to be the last 6 game weeks. Now I don't really like going over the last 6 game weeks because the fixture difficulty can kind of vary. And therefore you obviously have some teams playing easy opposition and therefore their stats should look better. But I think this might be useful to see what teams are in form and out of form, so I've decided to include it anyways. So to start off the stats review, let's go over the XG conceded, switch it up. We usually cover the attacking stats first. Now we're going to go over the defensive stats. And on screen right now, you guys can see the best teams over the entire FPL season. So Arsenal coming with the lowest XG conceded, making them the best defense this Premier League season. Man City, Newcastle United, West Ham and Spurs up next. So as I see that the defenses that we are kind of investing in are doing pretty well. I mean, Arsenal, most of us own an Arsenal asset. Man City, we're probably going to lose João Cancelo this week. So are we going to include another Man City defender? Who kind of knows? But Newcastle and United are closely followed. Now what I think this points to is that if you guys are looking for a João Cancelo replacement, if you can nail down a defender that's going to start most games, that defense is still worth investing in. Now the one thing I also want to point out here is the fact that Man City are also facing United and Spurs, so both those two sides in Double Game Week 20, their opposition have pretty respective defenses, and that might sway you off going for that Haaland triple captaincy. But I'm just going to put the stats out for you guys, you can make your own decisions. I'll talk about my own opinion a little bit later on. Now the next kind of section to go over the last 6 game weeks, you can see that Newcastle are destroying the Premier in terms of defenses, 0.63 XG conceded per game. Forgot to mention that these are per game averages, and that's obviously because of the amount of blanks and doubles teams have had. We then have Arsenal, United, Man City, Crystal Palace and Brentford. So Crystal Palace kind of sneaking in here. I mentioned in my previous videos this week that Crystal Palace's XG conceded isn't even that bad, but they have come off a bad loss to Spurs. So if you guys are looking for defense to go for, Newcastle are looking pretty strong and they do have some cheap assets to look at, but just be aware they are going to blank probably in Game Week 25. So pause the screen right now, but I want to kind of wrap through this video because I don't want to make it too long. So now we've covered the good defenses, let's go over some of those bad defenses, and the reason I'm doing this is that so if you have attackers facing these teams, you know that you might be in for some hauls. So over the entire FPL season, we are going to see that Fulham have the worst defense in the Prem, 1.8 XG conceded over the opening couple 18-19 games. And then we have Leeds, Everton, Nottingham Forest, Bournemouth, and finally Liverpool. So Liverpool yet again showing that the defense is not the same as they have had in previous seasons, and I definitely wouldn't be touching them anytime soon. So if you do have attackers facing these sides, I would definitely consider maybe even capsing them, as they should do pretty well. Then over the last 6 game weeks, we do have Leeds now as the worst defense, 2.09 XG conceded per game, pretty mental. Even Everton with even 2 XG conceded per game. We then have Bournemouth, Aston Villa, Brighton, and then also Liverpool. Brighton, the interesting one there, because they have had historically quite a good defense. So target these sides for kind of attacking fixtures if you guys want to go for them. The Aston Villa one quite interesting when Haaland faces them in the first game of Double Game Week 23. Now moving on to XG non-penalty. Now why I'm going for the XG non-penalty stat as my preferred stat for attacking is that I just think that penalties are sometimes not as kind of consistent, and that's always go for the non-penalty variant. But don't worry, you guys can go over to Fixer Sandbox, they have an XG stat right next to this, but as I mentioned, I prefer XG non-penalty. So on the left hand side, the best attacks over this Premier League season, Liverpool at the top with 1.99 XG non-penalty per game, and that's why I was really keen on actually keeping a Darwin Nunes. Now I'll talk about Darwin a little bit later on. Obviously with those injury rumours, we're probably going to ship him out, but if you guys do want to keep him Mo Salah, I can understand why. We then have Man City with 1.92, that's understandable, the best team or one of the best teams in the Premier this season, followed by Arsenal who are top of the table. Then we have Newcastle United and Brighton. All of these sides are pretty good attacking stats, and it is nice to see that United have some good attacking stats before their doubles. Then in terms of the last 6 game weeks, Liverpool yet again top 2.07 XG per game, Arsenal United up next, whereas Man City, Brentford and Brighton are just behind them. So definitely here in terms of the last 6 game weeks, United showing that form. That's why I'm so keen on kind of going for the attackers. But if you want to go for 2 defenders, I can also understand why. So these are the attacks that you guys should be targeting for these upcoming double game weeks. Now I see that Man City, United are consistent. Arsenal upcoming have a double in 23, also could target them. But it is sad to see that we might be losing the best team in terms of attack and their player Darwin Nunes. Then go on to the worst teams in terms of XG. So if you do have defenders facing these sides, the clean sheet odds are pretty strong. Left hand side, over the entire season, we have Bournemouth, Wolves, Nottingham Forest, Southampton, Leicester and West Ham who are struggling from an attacking point of view. So if you are looking to bring in one of those attackers, I might avoid them. Right hand side, over the last 6 game weeks, we have an inclusion of a team like Crystal Palace. Lots of us looking to maybe bring in a Wilfried Zaha before they double game week, but I might suggest otherwise. Interestingly enough there, we do have Chelsea as well, kind of one of those top 6 sides, traditional top 6 sides that are struggling at the current moment. So these are sides to avoid from an attacking point of view, but from a defensive point of view, if you have defenders facing them, the clean sheet odds look pretty strong. So that's going to kind of wrap up our stats review. I do apologize for having kind of screenshots. The graphics aren't looking as Gucci as they usually do, so please forgive me as the timelines have been pretty tight. But if you guys do have any questions about the stats, drop them in the comments down below or go over to Fantasy Football Fix, go over to the Opta Stats sandbox and check whatever stats you want to. Now the next talking point to go over, unfortunately as I am recording this video, I've waited for as long as possible. We are approaching the evening of Thursday night and I wanted to get this video out before it becomes too late. But as of right now, as I'm recording this video, there has been no news about Double Game Week 21 and Double Game Week 22, at least official confirmation, and there's only rumors at the current moment. So the rumors in terms of Double Game Week 22, a little bit shorter than Double Game Week 21. We have United potentially facing Leeds at home and Crystal Palace at home in what looks to be a spicy Double Game Week. But that hasn't been officially confirmed yet, but we have had some newspaper articles about it, so it looks like it will be pending. Then in terms of Double Game Week 21, no news at all, which makes me quite worried as the timeline between Game Week 20 and Game Week 21 isn't that kind of widespread. So with every hour that goes by, the likelihood goes down. But in terms of Double Game Week 21, Chelsea and Liverpool might face each other back to back, which will be quite mental. We then have Brighton that could have a double game week, pretty respectable one as well in terms of fixtures. But I can't really say anything official, unfortunately. But maybe we'll be getting something before the deadline stream tomorrow, so please make sure that you guys are on the stream and I will update you with whatever the latest news is. Now the next talking point to go over is going to be in terms of my kind of transfer plan, and I want to talk about João Cancelo. So in terms of João Cancelo, definitely a transfer out in terms of most FPL managers' mind. Unfortunately, he's gone through a pretty bad run of form at the current moment. And with most of the Man City defense being fit, he looks like he's going to be in for some rotation. So that's literally the worst word that you want to hear about any of your FPL assets, rotation in a double game week. And that's why it's a heavy consideration for a transfer out. Now the first thing I want to say about João Cancelo that I would prepare for if you're going to sell him is just remember that he's probably one game off being back into the team on a consistent basis. Has played basically every single minute over the opening couple game weeks of this season, but because of his bad form and his lack of fitness, I could say, he's been left out of the team on numerous occasions. But let's just say that he does face United, has a very spectacular performance, probably not that likely after seeing him in the League Cup last night, but let's just say that he has a good performance. I think that he's going to be back in kind of Pep Guardiola's good books. So will he face Spurs, Wolves and then Spurs again? Maybe, but I do think the kind of general consensus is that he will be starting one of the double game week fixtures. Now is one game week enough at 7.2 million or around that price tag? Probably not, and that's something most of us are considering selling him even for a hit. But that's all I wanted to say. Just be prepared for the fact that if he does have a good game, he might be back in the good books and then feature on a consistent basis. But even if that does happen, not the most attacking kind of fullback that we can afford, and that's why he's probably not worth his price tag at 7.2 million. So let's just say that you are going to transfer him out. Who are the replacements to go for? Well, I know I personally was going to look at John Stones, but the fact that he missed the League Cup game, wasn't even in the squad or on the bench, and that was apparently because he kind of is not fully fit. So let's see what Pep says tomorrow. Hopefully gives us some more indication. Maybe he says that John Stones was simply rested, which I hope he was, because he's a very nice replacement for João Cancelo. In terms of the other replacements, I think yet again we kind of playing with fire there. We have Lewis, Akanji and also Ake, but I think all of those suffer some rotation. Even a Kyle Walker isn't safe. So I think if you want to go for a defender, the only safe one to go for is going to be Edison, unfortunately, in that goalkeeper department. But that's making a goalkeeper transfer for a -4 probably. In terms of other replacements to look at, I think the United assets, if you don't own a Luke Shaw, simple replacement to go for. I personally am looking for more information on kind of Martinez and Varane. Are either of these two assets nailed at centre back? I hope so, as they might be a nice little cheap entry into that United double up in defence. Otherwise, Doherty, mentioned him in my team selection yesterday, great asset to look at from an attacking point of view. The clean sheets might not be there, but who kind of cares at his cheap price point? Otherwise, the no-brainers, we saw them Newcastle, best defense over the last 6 game weeks, a Botman, maybe a Fabian Schär, or a Dan Burn could be great assets to look at with some nice fixtures coming up for Newcastle. But I think right now the general consensus and my personal consensus is that João Cancelo's not worth his price tag, because what were we paying for when we brought him into our squad? Expected minutes. We honestly thought that he was the best kind of defender to go for, nailed in that back 4, that back 5, whatever they do play. But the fact that he's lost those starts, and because his attacking stats aren't looking great from the kind of the previous season, I think he's an easy sell for this upcoming double game week. But you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. If you are taking Cancelo out, who are you replacing him with, and why is it helping you upgrade Darwin to Kane? Now, probably the biggest talking point of double game week 20 is going to be all about the Erling Haaland triple captaincy. Now, I'm going to be going over kind of some talking points relating to why I think that you should captain him in double game week 20 and what are the other options to go for. Now, the first thing I want to say is that if you don't want to captain Erling Haaland, if you're open to kind of captaining another asset, that's 100% fine. A Rashford if they get double game week 22, when Crystal Palace leads, looks like 2 great fixtures. And just remember, you want to kind of triple captain the player you think is going to score the most points, whatever the game week. So if you are open to triple captaining another asset, maybe Salah in game week 37, double game week 37 or something like that, that's 100% fine. But if you are looking to captain probably the most consistent F4 asset we've had in seasons come, then maybe stay for this talking point. So if I think about myself, I'm pretty keen on captaining Erling Haaland. I just think that if you look at his goals tally, the amount of blanks he's had this Premier League season, super consistent, and that's what you want from your captaincy assets. So in terms of Erling Haaland, there's going to be kind of 2 game weeks right now that we know for certain where Man City do have a double game week, but they will have a potential future one either in game week 34, 37, or actually in both. But let's just focus on double game week 22. What I'm going to have on screen right now is going to be the fixtures before and after double game week 22. And the nice thing about double game week 22 is going to be the days of rest. So for example, let's see yesterday they faced Southampton in the EFL Cup quarterfinal. Erling Haaland was actually rested, so he didn't even feature from the start. And therefore you should be fine for the upcoming game weeks. They face United in the Manchester derby, lunchtime Saturday, and then face Spurs on the Thursday, so a couple of days rest there. They then have Wolves on Sunday, so another few days of rest, which I think Erling Haaland should be fine for both the United and the Spurs fixture. So the pros about game week 20 is that we do have kind of confirmed double game weeks. We have a confirmed schedule that I think that Erling Haaland should feature in both of the 2 games because of the days of rest between. Now, an obvious con of double game week 20 is going to be the fixtures. United and Spurs, we just saw in terms of the defensive stats, great defenses on paper. But I still think that Man City could score against them. Now to kind of draw a comparison, I'm going to talk about double game week 23 because I think that's kind of a very valid game week to use the triple captaincy chip on Erling Haaland in. So let's bring those fixtures before and after on screen right now. So as you guys can see, in terms of the FA Cup 4th round, they have Arsenal on the 28th of January. They then face Spurs about a week later, which is perfectly enough rest there. And then they have another week rest and they have Aston Villa. So please remember that the Aston Villa fixture and the Arsenal fixture after Aston Villa are going to be the double game week 23 fixtures. So what you see on screen right now is that we have adequate rest beforehand. I mean, the Spurs to Aston Villa rest is a full week, but from the Aston Villa game to the Arsenal game is only about 3 days. So comparing kind of a Saturday to a Thursday to a 3-day rest is going to be a less amount of time, and therefore Erling Haaland might suffer some rotation. So I guess what you could say is that a pro of the double game week 23 is going to be the Aston Villa at home game. Yes, I do agree with you. Great fixture on paper. When we just looked at the XG conceded, Aston Villa aren't performing well at the current moment, but it's expected minutes that are going to be a con. Now, there are a couple of future double game weeks coming up, but the thing about those is that the league might be wrapped up already. Man City might have already won it. The motivation to actually do well might not be there. And with the Champions League and other competitions around then, Erling Haaland might be rotated in and around. So this is why if you guys want to captain Erling Haaland, I would do it either game week 20 or game week 23, as the future is a little bit uncertain. But if you don't want to captain Erling Haaland and are open to another asset, you might potentially want to wait. I think the thing for me that's quite annoying about double game week 20 is when I look at those fixtures, I don't automatically think of a triple captaincy, and that's why I can't get 100% behind it. But still, I'm 100% open of using it. Currently, I think it's about a 60-40 split, 60% on using it this game week. But let me know in the comments down below, are you captaining Erling Haaland in double game week 20, double game week 23 in the future, or are you open to another asset like a Marcus Rashford or Mo Salah? I would say my recommendation probably is that if you want to use the triple captaincy on Erling Haaland, I would do it this game week. I just think it makes more sense. What's in front of us, the certainties is Erling Haaland should start both games, whereas game week 23, there's no promises. And as an FPL, I always like to act on kind of certainties, and that's what we have at the end of the day. Now the penultimate talking point I just want to go over is going to be the blank and the future double game weeks. Kind of these have been written in stone by Ben Krellin. If you don't follow Ben Krellin on Twitter, I would heavily recommend doing so. Kind of the double game week and blank game week FPL guru, and this information comes from him. So starting off in terms of the blank game weeks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go from top to bottom in terms of the biggest blanks to the lower blanks. That's going to be double game week 28, game week 32, and game week 25. So game week 28 is predicted to have about 4 blank game weeks, game week 32 about 3, and then game week 25 about 2. And this obviously might change as the postponements and the progression of the Premier League sides in these competitions does go through. So just keep that in mind, this is not set in stone. But in terms of the blank game weeks, these are so definitely going to be a blank in game week 28, 32, and 25. So make sure that you are prepared for this. Now in terms of the teams that are blanking in these fixtures, some of them have already been confirmed yet. For example, Newcastle will be blanking in game week 25, I do believe. But the future blank game weeks depend on the progression of the Prem sides in the cup competitions. But now taking a quick review of the double game weeks, we've got double game week 29, game week 34, and game week 37. No, these aren't kind of increasing in terms of how many doubles are going to be happening in these fixtures. We can't tell that right now. But in terms of the big / medium double game weeks, game week 29, 34, and 37 are going to be where it's at, and the bench boost will probably be used in game week 34, game week 37. But I just want to show you right now, I think it might be a little bit too soon to have a defined chip strategy, but I just want to show you what's coming up. Now the final talking point to go over, and probably one of the most important ones, is going to be all about Darwin Nunes. So rumor came out today, and this has been confirmed by a couple of journalists. Darwin Nunes wasn't pictured in training and has actually been missing from training for the past few days. Now the news report says that he is a doubt for the Brighton game happening on Saturday, but please make sure that you are focusing on that Klopp press conference coming up tomorrow. But if Darwin Nunes is out, obviously a high-owned option amongst the FPL Twitter community, we probably want to transfer him out. Now there are 2 replacements that I would probably go for. The one is if you can afford a Harry Kane, probably would go for him, but if you can't, I think that a Martial is a great asset to look at. So I think between those 2 assets, you probably have your answer in terms of a replacement, and if you're willing to downgrade Cancelo, I think that Harry Kane's a standout option. But I'll be giving you guys the update from the press conference in tomorrow's deadline stream, and this obviously does change our transfer plan at the current moment. But let me know if you guys are replacing Darwin Nunes or at least have a plan for it. What are you guys doing? Are you going for a Harry Kane? Are you going for a Martial? Or is there another option that's going under the radar? But that's basically a wrap up the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy it. Please don't forget to like if you didn't subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. I'll be seeing you guys for the deadline stream tomorrow, 1 hour before the deadline, where hopefully we are locking in some moves and maybe even a triple captaincy. But I'm signing off. Dayvy FPL, and I'm out. Cheers. Bye.